Well, hello there. Do not make me have to ask.
You said a week. You're early.
I missed you. Oh, Rick. Come on out here. Watch this. Calling it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, everybody. Let's get started. Big day.
Thank you, everybody. One more time.
Thank you.
Negan is here.
Awesome.
Negan is here.
Negan is fucking here.
He's in the house. I wish you brought Lucille with you. I gotta say, you know.
I usually like to have her with me. Matter of fact, I just did an interview and someone gave me a Lucille wrapped in, instead of barbed wire Christmas lights. I could have brought that. It's still effective. It had a nice heft to it.
I like that for the Christmas episode.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I thought it was a good idea, but I'll probably end up giving it to my kid so I know where he is at night, running around with his baseball bat.
Tell me what it was like to get cast in this role, considering the fact that it's one of, if not the most successful cable drama on television right now, and you're stepping into a role that is extremely popular in the comic books, which the show is already based on.
Well, you know, oddly enough, when I accepted the role, I didn't understand any of what you just said. I mean, I knew that it was maybe the most watched show, but I don't think I knew what that meant. Having done a lot of shows, I'm just happy that people are watching.
That's true, because you were on like Grey's Anatomy, which
right.
is like
Yeah. Thank you. But this is a whole different world, and I don't think I understood the rabid fan base or the passion or just kind of the life-changing. Everyone told me when I showed up on the set for this show that my life was going to change, and I thought, well, that's bullshit. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I've had a couple decent successes in my life, and how can it possibly change my life? And I think I was horribly wrong, and I miscalculated this show in particular, and maybe this character, how popular he is.
So how has it changed your life?
Security. I need security. The fans are so passionate, and I think I've only been on maybe 4 episodes so far, right? You've only seen Negan 4 times, and I've already had to, you know, I need to look in my rearview mirror when I go home at night from work, because people will follow me home. I get weird mail. People will
weird mail?
I get weird mail.
What's the weirdest mail that you've gotten so far? And I'm sorry.
Well, considering I've got like 3 boxes that just delivered to my house that I haven't opened yet, I'm not sure. But you know, I get lots of weird propositions, sexual propositions, like with like ball gags involved and maybe Lucille. It's weird. There's some weird stuff out there that I have to. I've never quite heard before.
Negan's very confident, and confidence is sexy, I think. You know?
I think that's it. I think he carries himself with a certain aplomb, and the women are falling for it, or the men.
Psychotic aplomb, but
yeah,
you know.
yeah, exactly. But I think it's just when you have this many people watching a show. You know, 17 million tuned into the premiere, and I think we're at like 15 now with, that's a lot of friggin' people that are watching a program that is, you know, arguably, it's a water cooler type show that everybody wants to talk about, and to be kind of in the middle of that world right now, and Negan certainly is, it's just something that I didn't quite anticipate maybe as well as I should have.
I mean, in this day and age, it's almost it's miraculous to have that kind of audience on any kind of show.
Yeah, I did an interview earlier this morning, or whatever it is. It's afternoon now. It's been a long day. But the guy said, between Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, these are really the two shows that people want to watch and make sure they're current on so they can talk about the following Monday. And I thought about that, and I think he's correct. I hadn't really thought about it like that before, but there's kind of two shows you don't want to miss for fear of what you're going to miss.
Have you tried to get on Game of Thrones as well, just to sort of get that?
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's my next stop, for sure. Grey's Anatomy, Walking Dead, and Game of Thrones before it all ends. Yeah.
So when it comes to characters like Negan, and there aren't that many of them, but villains who relish being able to play a villain. Like, they really love, like you said in the green room, getting the chance to be the bully. Had you ever played anyone like that before? Had you ever been cast? Because, someone like Christoph Waltz, who sort of does versions of that a lot. He did it in Bond, he did it in Tarantino, whereas I don't know if I've ever really seen you play a character like this.
Not quite like this. I mean, I think the closest comparison would be the comedian in Watchmen. Thank you. There's a couple parallels there, but I think it also comes from the world of the graphic novel. I did a Western called The Salvation, where I played this bad guy named De La Rue. And those are really kind of the two. And then I have a movie out now called Desierto, where I'm an absolute psychotic. But
you have.
Yeah, but it's... Nothing quite compares to Negan. I don't look at Negan as necessarily this horrible guy. I think he enjoys what he does, but in this world, this apocalyptic, Walking Dead world, you look at what your heroes have done in this show, the Ricks and the Daryl Dixons and these great characters we love and think of as our heroes. They killed 30 of Negan's men while they slept, and so to me, Negan exacting his revenge by tapping a couple dudes in the head wasn't all that bad. Now, maybe he enjoys it more than...
That's what I was going to say. At least he enjoys it.
He has a smile on his face. I think that's what makes Negan so fascinating, is that he will do these things and... he will cave your skull in, but he will do it with a big smile on his face. Look, I'm looking at you, yeah. I don't know if you're going to flip me off or you're really happy.
Isn't that... Wouldn't you say that's kind of a survival... That could be considered a survival skill on his part? If he has to do this, it's almost a defense mechanism to enjoy it and embrace it.
Well,
because there's no other way to live.
You look at someone like Negan, and I think this is probably a guy that we all knew in junior high and high school. He was the bully asshole. Who maybe enjoyed being the bully asshole and picked on the younger kids. And, what Negan does is he's poking you all the time. Episode 4, that when Negan goes to Alexandria, and it's just him beating down Rick, but mentally, not physically. It's just everything he says is another dig, and it's nonstop, and he's smiling the whole time, and it's that guy you hate. But he also has this innate charm and sense of humor, so you'll find yourself laughing at shit that Negan says and hating that you're laughing. I can't believe I'm giving this guy that. And that's why I love him.
Do you end up having a bit of a relationship with the other, kind of like that, with the other actor who plays Rick, who
Andy Lincoln?
Well, ends up having to be serious all throughout the day and play this serious character.
Yeah.
Do a day of scenes, and you just get to...
Yeah, it's how I know I'm doing my job, is how mad Andy is in between takes. It's true, because we'll do a take, and he'll fucking storm off to the corner, and I'll just hear him yelling, "Motherfucker," fucking kicking shit. And they're like, "All right, we're ready to do another take," and he comes back, and he's all straight-faced, and I'm like, "I heard you back there, man." And I know that I'm getting to you. But that being said, I look at Andy Lincoln in particular. This is a guy that, Negan doesn't work without Rick, and I don't work as Negan unless Andy Lincoln is acting his ass off and being this guy that we've seen after 6 years build this character up to be this. Rick is a fucking man. He is large and in charge. So The only way that Negan works is because Rick is so broken down. And I think the job that Andy Lincoln has done, in particular this year, it's been hard for Andy Lincoln. Not only has he spent 6 years kind of making this character, but then a lot of actors would be like, fuck you, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play this vulnerable. There's no way. This guy would not break me. He'd be fighting it. But Andy, man, he goes all in every take and is full on giving it his all, and he's become this vulnerable, broken man, which I think is a testament to him, certainly as an actor, I think what he's shown, but also as a guy that's willing to tear down a character that he spent 6 years building.
It's kind of egoless, because if you think of
very much so,
the star of a television show for 6 seasons, most stars would have a problem with a new guy coming in and being the sort of center character, or at least the antagonist that is getting a lot of play and a lot of
play, and not only that, to have this guy come in and kind of ruin everything you've created for 6 years, that would probably be a problem. And the fact that he's kind of been so selfless in that and not complained, and I'm not kidding you, we have brutal days. I mean, you've seen the episodes. I'm relentless on and off camera while we're shooting.
Off camera?
Off camera, I'm an asshole. I like to know that I'm under their skin. Look, I mean, after we wrap or the scene is over, I'm the first guy to give you a hug and a kiss and tell you I love you. But I'm going to have fun while I'm shooting, and Negan takes certain enjoyment in other people's pain and misery, and so I kind of have a similar thing now that Jeff takes a little bit of pleasure in Andy's pain.
Let's talk about that first episode this season, sort of the death of Glenn and that scene. I heard that when you guys shot that, you had to shoot sort of bashing everybody's brain in for the purpose of Andrew Lincoln's sort of dream sequences. Maybe he was envisioning all of them getting killed. What was that like for you? Because you hadn't been shooting with the show that long at that point, right?
No, I'd only done.
And didn't you guys shoot that at the end of the...
No. We shot exactly what you saw, how season 6 ended, the cliffhanger. Boo, yeah. Dude, have some patience, man. Boo. I'm gonna club that guy.
Get over it.
We shot it, so it ended on that. I didn't even know who Negan's victims were when I finished filming, and then I went back to The Good Wife, and I shot The Good Wife.
Can I get some claps for The Good Wife?
Thank you.
I'm just going to say about The Good Wife, a criminally underrated show. It should have won awards all the time, every year. Just one of the best written shows on TV.
Really, and the acting, too. I mean,
yes.
Come on, Christine Baranski and Juliana Moore. Those... the best of the best. And so to be on that show for a year was awesome. But anyway, so I shot 2 days of the Walking Dead finale, the Boo cliffhanger, and then went back on Good Wife and shot that. And I think I had a week between finishing The Good Wife and being full-time on Walking Dead. And we came back with 701, and that's when I found out. I knew like 2 days before I shot, because Norman spilled the beans on who I was going to kill. And I was like, really, 2? I had no idea. So I found out then, and we went to work on that episode. And not only did we shot everybody taking a kill shot. I hit every single person with the baseball bat.
Did you also have to bash them as well?
Oh, yeah.
Like not just one boom, boom, boom.
No, I full-on blood bathed them.
What were you hitting? What were the heads made of? What was going on?
I was hitting their heads. No, I'm not even fucking around. The bat I had to stunt Lucille, and she has a fiberglass middle with foam on the outside. It still, by the way, hurts when you smack somebody with it. And then a blood bag is made into the bat. I shouldn't be giving away the special effects secrets, but I had to hit, and they made me do it because, believe me, after you hit someone numerous times with a baseball bat, you start to feel bad, believe it or not. And they kept making me hit people over and over. And meanwhile, these actors, God bless them, they're all like full crying for hours and days, and
You're just antagonizing
and
them?
and then they have me like improving stuff that was horrible. And I remember like I was just like they're just like say stuff to get reactions, and I was like, I remember going up to Eugene, with his bad haircut, and it's like Beavis fucking had sex with Elvis. I'm just gonna, I was making up shit to say. Anything I could say to get some kind of reaction, and so I remember he was trying not to laugh. He's in the middle of crying. He's like, "Don't say shit that's funny." And then I'd crack him, but it got to the point where I was finally like to Greg. I was like, "Dude, I can't. Can you just get a stunt guy in here to hit people?" And then they brought a stunt guy in who hit someone wrong. I was so good at it by this point that I was like, "Oh, fine, let me hit him." But that's how Andy and I got to hit Greg finally with Lucille at the end. It was like he was just emotionally drained, and I was sick of fucking hitting people, and so we took our bats on Greg, which was fun. We got that on film somewhere too. But to go back to that, hitting everybody, it wasn't even just for the dream sequence. It was also they edited a full version of Maggie being the victim and someone else. And it was all a red herring. It was all to possibly be released before our episode was going to air because there's so many people out there trying to spoil the show.
Isn't that so weird?
It's crazy. I've never heard of such a thing.
It's so crazy to me that, because the people who are trying to spoil the show also love the show.
Yeah, it's like that guy that just said boo. It's like boo. Boo, I didn't get to find out what happened, so now I'm going to spoil it for everybody. It's that mentality, which it seems crazy to me. Like, just, watch something else for a couple months, and we'll be back, and you'll find out.
It's like when I interview someone who's on a show like this or in a Marvel movie or something, it's my job to be like, what's going to happen in the next episode?
Yeah.
And it's their job to be like, I can't tell you. But
Right.
for some reason, people would be like, you're not doing your job if you don't ask them that. And it's like, they're not going to answer it. Why would I have...
Well, this show it's so shrouded in. See, I've never been a part of anything quite like that. No one wanted to know what was going to happen next week on The Good Wife. It was like
I did.
They weren't flying drones over the set trying to figure that out. And in The Walking Dead, I mean, we had to duck people down in vans for the first 6 months before that first episode aired. We had to hide cast members so you couldn't deduce who was there and who wasn't there because who got the baseball bat. So it was lunacy, and really the only person that could give interviews was me, because the only person that we know is alive is Negan. He didn't hit himself, probably, most likely, with the baseball bat, and so it was crazy. It was nuts, and like the scripts, they don't want us to read them. We don't even know what's going on half the time. Yeah.
Is that weird? Because you have long monologues.
Yeah, I hate it.
You get those on
I'm
the
like,
day?
man, I need that script. Yeah.
So you don't get them usually until day of? Or?
I get maybe 2 days, but usually they'll give me a script and it'll be these huge monologues, and then they won't tell me what I'm shooting first. I'm like, well, you should tell me now what I'm going to shoot so I know what to memorize, because I can't just, I'm really dyslexic too, so when you give me a 17-page monologue or a couple in a script, you better tell me which one I'm going to shoot tomorrow, because I'll probably not know it. I just won't. So there's always like a little sweat going on in my world, whether it's in Atlanta with a leather coat or just, oh shit, I don't know my dialogue. But so far it's managed to work out, but I always need more time. I'm always to the writers, please let me have a little bit more time. And it's never enough.
I want to ask you about your hat. You have a Wounded Warrior Project hat.
I do.
Here. Are you involved with that organization?
As much as I can be. There's a couple things that I believe in life. One is the people that fight for our country, the soldiers, men and women that fight for our country, and animals. And animals. I love my animals. So the rest of y'all, no. Boo. That guy's so mad that he said boo now. He's like, oh, God.
I was just kidding.
I didn't mean to say that. I wasn't one of those guys.
How did you get involved with Wounded Warrior?
I had a couple friends that were in the military that didn't come home whole, and that's kind of how I got involved in them. You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and now I wear like, this is one of my favorite hats to wear at the convention circuit, and I can't tell you how many men and women I've met that have served our country that have come up and been so happy and proud that I've worn this hat. And the first time I wore it, I just like it's not like I was searching out the Wounded Warriors hat. I just wanted to put a hat on my head, and I didn't want to do my hair that day. Because you can see why. And it caused such a positive reaction that it now happens to be one of my most loved hats, and I wear it a lot, and it brings up conversations that are sometimes great and sometimes hard and sometimes emotional, but they're all good. So there.
Another project that you're involved with, or not an organization or a project, is a candy store.
Yeah.
Which
hey, nice segue.
Do you like that?
I see what you did there.
Tried to-
That was smooth as hell.
I don't really know if that was
Go
that.
from Wounded Warriors to a candy store.
I could have been maybe a little more self-aware about the transition.
It was good.
Which is something that the first time I interviewed you a couple years ago sort of naturally came out, that you own this candy store, and now every interview that you do.
You started this whole thing.
Thank you. Thank
it's
you. That's
true.
what I
The
wanted
very
you to
first
say.
interview that I gave in my whole life and talked about the candy store was with you.
An accident.
And now it's like I can't do an interview without it. It doesn't matter what it's for. And so how long ago was that interview? 3 years ago?
3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and every interview since then, so it's brought up every single, which has been great for Samuel Sweets in Rhinebeck, right on Main Street. You can't miss it.
That you own with Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd, and my friend Andy Alstroy, and our lovely spouses who do all the work. Paul and I don't do diddly squat. I go in and I eat candy. I'm like my kid. I'm like stealing shit, you know. And look
Place
over there,
looks
and I'm
great.
like, yeah,
Thanks,
yeah,
guys.
you guys are doing great. Look at the floors are great. And I walk out with my milk duds. But yeah, Paul and I have very little to do with it. I know that Paul was in the other day, and he did a radio show live from Woodstock Radio or something. Came up to the candy store, and
Love Woodstock Radio.
yeah,
Love that. Have you ever been to their
It's
little
cool.
radio station at the bar there?
well, that's what they set up at the bar at our candy store. And they're actually at our candy store tomorrow, and my wife is doing Woodstock Radio tomorrow.
Love Woodstock.
Or Friday. So I might try to zip back and help on that. But yeah, Paul just did that with our friend Andy, and we're getting ready for our the Santa Claus parade is Saturday up in Rhinebeck, and that's a big deal for the candy store. So yeah, man, Negan to like the candy guy. It's like I'm Willy Wonka on the weekends. It's crazy.
What's your favorite candy?
I'm a big fan of all candy, but we have a chocolate maker up in Rhinebeck. This lady who makes this bark, like a chocolate bark, and she does like during Christmas time. She does it with peppermint, and there's like cherry, and it's my favorite. I can get a 1/4-pound box of that and go sit in the corner, and I'm good to go.
Let's open it up to the audience for questions. Who has questions out there?
Hey, Jeffrey.
Hey, man.
What's going on? My name is Joey, and I just had a question.
Sure.
How does it feel like to be the biggest villain on television, and do you feel like that you have any expectations that you have to live up to?
Well, I mean, I think if I have to live up to the title of the biggest villain, I better deliver. I think that Negan going in, and I was a fan of Negan from the graphic novels, and again, I think this goes back to the very first question we talked about. I don't know that I was prepared for the Walking Dead world of it all, or the biggest. I never looked at him as like the biggest villain on television, but I think sure as shit at this time he might be the biggest villain on TV, and I think that with that comes a certain responsibility. I want to do right by what Kirkman created, certainly, and a show that's watched and beloved by so many people. I want to make sure they're getting their money's worth, and so I am very conscious that we want Negan to deliver the goods. Look, I love Negan and I love playing him, and I want you guys to either love him or hate him, one of those things, or a little bit of both, you know. And I think as long as I'm eliciting a reaction from the audience, then we're doing a good job.
Did you get any advice from cast members? You said when you signed on to the show, they all told you that your life was going to change because of the show. Did anybody give you a good piece of advice on how to deal with it?
No, what is amazing, and no, I wish.
I'm a grown man. I knew.
No, but
how
I
to deal with
hang
it.
out a lot with Norman. We spend a lot of time together. How he is, and he probably has the craziest fans in the whole world. I mean, I believe that he has a level of fandom that I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I've stopped with him on the middle of a road in Tennessee where you can't see a car for as far as your eyes can see. We stop on the side of the road to pee in the woods, and we come out and we're surrounded by 100 cars. Daryl Dixon! And it's just you're surrounded, and he will take his time with every single person. There is a graciousness that he has that I've never seen with his fans, and I think what I've learned is maybe to have a little piece of that graciousness, because sometimes I get a little overwhelmed, to be honest with you, and I'm very conscious of having a child, and I don't like people coming up when I have my kid, and people can be a little bit unrelenting, I guess, a little forceful, and I'm only worried about it when I'm with my little boy. Otherwise, please come up and steal a picture, or whatever you have to do. But be conscious of my son and my family, and people sometimes don't want to live by those rules. And I think Norman has taught me a way to deal with that better than I've ever seen anyone deal with them before, and that I respect a lot. And so I've learned that, because it's a whole different world. It really is. I've been doing this for a long time, and can walk down the road and no one gives a shit. They're always very kind, and that's changed. Now it's hard for me to walk down the road or leave a hotel or go anywhere without people needing a bat sign. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Danielle.
You look fantastic.
Thank you. I'm not gonna lie, this was a gift from my grandmother, like months before the show came on. So
You look great.
Thank
Yay,
you.
Grandma.
I just want to say I'm a big admirer of all your work. My favorite is The Comedian. It's one of my favorite comic book movies is Watchmen.
Thank you.
And I've always felt that Negan and The Comedian are very, very alike in so many ways. So I was wondering if there was any sort of elements you might have taken from your time when you played The Comedian that you took when it came time to developing Negan?
I mean, there are some similarities, like to look at on paper. I think there's similarities, but I think that Negan was a much different approach. The Comedian didn't really have a sense of humor, a little bit of charm. We saw a little bit of charm with like Silk Spectre, I was going to say, remember the rape scene? Yeah. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ. He went there.
I just like the way you presented it.
I was, yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I want to say exactly. Well, because before that rape scene, you could see that he was like charming, like in seriousness. There was a certain charm and kind of smile and twinkle in the comedian's eye until there wasn't. With Negan, he's totally against, as we know, he's against rape and loves his women. I never approach each character in near the same way. I guess is the final answer. I guess for this, I approach Negan as a completely different guy. Negan is so original in his kind of charm and sense of humor, and the fact that he is smiling all the time. It's off-putting how much he smiles, and I think as an audience, it throws you, and it's unlikable, and yet kind of likable. You don't know where you stand with Negan, and he is constantly keeping you on your toes with this wit and this charm, whereas the Comedian, you kind of knew what you were going to get. I think the Comedian was pretty much straightforward with what he was going to do and who he was going to be. They're both a little bit nihilistic, you know. I wouldn't fuck with either of them. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that fight.
Next question.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Danny. I know you're a fan of the comic, and you said you were a fan of Negan in the comic. So I was wondering if there's anything in the comic that's coming up, that might. Sorry, I don't know how to phrase my question.
If there's anything come up in the comic book that I love that we're going to be seeing on the show,
Exactly. Thank
Aha.
you.
I read your mind. I'm feeling like that's a big spoiler alert if I said either way.
You're excited to maybe do that you've seen in the comic?
I was always fascinated with the Negan Carl storyline. It'll be interesting to see if we play that out in the show at all.
I'm excited for that too.
Yeah, but that was always something that I looked at as a reader and fan of the graphic novel that I really would like to approach in the show. So we'll see what the show does.
Okay, thank you.
Next question. I think this is the last question we have time for.
Hi, I'm
Make
Brian.
it good.
Hey, Brian.
Brian. I'm a big fan of your work, and I'm kind of like a big fan of how you portray Negan on the show.
Thank you.
And I'm kind of wondering how, in the comics, he curses a whole lot.
Yeah.
Do you feel different, to do like the TV ed stuff, and then on the Blu-ray they have the whole, whole cursing, the whole like uncensored stuff?
Well, it's interesting. That's when I first got the role. I thought, well, how can this be Negan? How can we do a TV version of Negan and have it be effective, like at all? Because in the comic book, that's really, I think that it's such a Negan thing. The fucks of it all, the fuckity fuck of it all, is kind of so important. And now we shoot two versions. Absolutely, we do the fuck version, and literally, I'll take it right from the comic book for the Blu-ray. That being said, having seen both, I think sometimes, believe it or not, that it's more effective without all the fucks, which I think might seem weird. And it seems even weird for me to say, but I've watched both versions, and I think as effective as it is in the graphic novel, I think in the television show, that sometimes it's too much. When every other word is fuck, it kind of takes you out of that scene, and you're like, well, what the fuck?
It also makes it makes the violence even more jarring because you sort of like the world that you're in feels like the TV world, and all of a sudden.
Sometimes it feels like it's too much. Too many fucks almost seem like there can be too many fucks for Negan. But I will do when I do the F take. I will say this, that it changes the energy of the scene in such a way that I'm like, ooh, God, that's so different. Let me go back to the TV version now and see if I can keep that energy in that realm, because I find when I'm just letting it fly that it brings up the scene. And many times, if the camera's on Andy, it's Andy's close-up, and I'm off camera, I'm giving him full fucking Negan. Like, I'm going full fuck, like, in his face. He's getting the full experience. And I don't do any TV version for him because I think there's more reaction from other actors when I'm going nuts, when Negan's going nuts, not me. But I do, having now seen kind of edits of both things, I think that sometimes, not all the time, that a lesser version is more, I want to say, truthful. It seems more real. I think some things work in a graphic novel, and we're finding this as we go too. It's a tricky line sometimes that we find ourselves in, trying to stay so pure to a graphic novel in a world that's been created by The Walking Dead, this dark, gritty world, and this guy comes in wearing his red scarf, swinging his baseball bat, giving these fucking monologues, and I'm now very aware of not wanting to I want to reel it in a little bit sometimes too. I think there's a time for it to reel in, because otherwise it doesn't quite, I don't know that it quite fits. And I think as a show, myself and Kirkman and Scott Gimple, I think we're trying to figure out how the Negan can work all the time, and I think they find that in the edits and stuff too. I try to give them as much as I can as different many ways.
Are they trying to find out how he can work all the time so they can keep him for a much longer period of time on the show?
I think why wouldn't you? Much to like, the cast's chagrin. Like, oh no. We'll see how long Negan's going to be around for. I mean, in the comic books, he's still alive and kicking. And I want to say in the comic books they're at like 160. Does anybody know? Right around 157, 158. Yeah, 156. And so in the show, I want to say we're like at 104, 105, something like that. So you can see now, if we do that math, that technically Negan would be around for at least another 4 years if the show were to go that long. Yeah.
I got to let you go.
Half
but,
people are like, oh no. How many more monologues do I got to hear this guy say?
I got to let you go, but the show, you are heavy in the next couple episodes, right?
Yeah. I think you'll be seeing a little bit of Negan in 7 and 8. Yeah, the mid-season finale is 8, I believe. Yeah. So yeah, I'm quite a bit in 7 and 8.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan or Negan, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.